Hi everyone. So last class we have been discussing about static method, static variable, and we were discussing about the wrapper, also called as a abstraction. Wrapper is a class which contains only variable, right? Whenever you have only variable declared inside the class is set of variables, a collection of variables or more than one variables you define inside a class, and that class can be called or treated as a variable in some other classes. That's what we did yesterday. So what we did yesterday, we created a wrapper class separately, and inside the wrapper class we created a primitive data, collection data, S-object data, and once we create that wrapper class, we referred the wrapper class in another class as a data, as a variable we referred it. So today we will see the next concept called interface. Today we will see the next concept called interface. Whenever you have a class, whenever you have a class only with the methods, and no data or no variable, is called interface. What is the interface? Whenever you have a class only with the methods, and no data, no variable is called interface. Whereas abstraction or wrapper has only the variables. It has only the variables and does not have any methods in the wrapper. When it comes to interface, it has a methods, but there is no variables inside that. So which is called as a interface. So that means class containing only method is called interface, in simple word. Properties of the interface. Interface makes implementation of a method's mandate. And second one, variable can be declared at method variable or instance variable. A method can be, variable can be declared at method variable or instance variable. So let me show you that how to create an interface in the Salesforce. File, new, Apex class. So let's say that CL underscore 2206, and this is the interface example 1. Okay, so whenever we are creating the interface class has to have the keyword called interface. Instead of the class, it should be the interface. Public interface and the class name. So that this defined as a interface class. So inside the interface class, we only have a methods, no variable. So let me declare as a, let's say that pickup. Let's assume that pickup point has some integer number. This is one method. Another method is void drop or dropping. And this does not have any parameters. So this is the interface. In normal way, this is called as an interface. We only declare a methods. No variables, no logic, nothing will be there. And let me create another class. CL underscore 2206. This is interface use. Let's assume that I have a different class. This is a generic class. If any class wants to implement or use the interface class, then they always use the implements. They always use implements, the interface class. Any class that they wanted to use interface, then they have to use it, implement the class name. That means we are implementing the, what are the interface classes there, we are implementing that. And as soon as I write implement this class name, as soon as I write implements, and this is the interface class, what is happening? It is going to throw me an error saying that as soon as I implement it, I have to, by default, I have to take this. Whatever the methods are there, I need to use those methods here. That means I need to use public void method, and I have integer a. Now one will be go away, pickup will go away. Now only the dropping will show. Now next one, I have to use the dropping method. Public void dropping. So that means as soon as I use the implements, whatever the methods which are there in the interface, I have to use those interface in the class. Now I can implement whatever the logic that I wanted to implement, I can implement it. But if there are 10 methods in the interface class, then I have to use the 10 interface methods. I have to declare it here. And apart from these methods, I can declare my own methods like public void shopping. I can do my own methods on top of it, right? So this is what interface. Interface is nothing but interface will have only the methods. There are no variable declaration, nothing will be there. It has only methods, which is called as an interface. And if anybody wants to use the interface, they have to use it with the implements. And as soon as we use the keyword called implements and the class name, we have to use all the methods that are exist in the interface. We have to declare those methods with the same parameter. If there are any parameters here, we have to use the same parameter. And on top of that, which we can use our own method. This is very rare scenarios. We use it in the real time. Like there is some static class, like very rare. I have not seen anything using this kind of interfaces. The reason is there are a lot of existing interfaces in the Salesforce, like batch apex, schedule apex, queuable apex, bulk apex. All these interfaces are already pre-given to us by Salesforce. So what we will do, we will just use those interfaces. Implementing the interface from the scratch like this is very rare. Very rare in a sense. If you have any complex logic in your requirement, then we just declare a methods, and these methods are used in multiple places. Then we declare a separate interface class, and this interface class will be the common for all other classes. Only those scenarios we use the real time. So from the interface, the interview questions, they rarely ask how do you implement the interface. How do you implement the interface? What is the keyword, or like what is the keyword, or how do you call interface class in other class? And next one is how do you override the business logic while using the implements. What is the implements keyword? And when do you use it? So these are the interview questions can come up, but in real-time scenario, this is very rarely used interface. Next topic is constructor. Any questions before I move on to the constructor? So constructors are special methods. These are special methods that are called or invoked. Constructors are special methods that are called or invoked when an object is created from the class. When the object is created from the class. What is a constructor? Constructors are special methods that are called or invoked when an object is created from the class. What are the properties of it? Properties are the constructor method name will be same as class name. Method name is same as class name, and constructor must be public access modifier. Public access modifier. And constructors do not have the return type. Do not have the return type. And a constructor is automatically called when an object is created. As soon as the object is created, the constructor gets called. When I say object, the class. Whenever the class is created, automatically the constructor is automatically called. And this constructor method will invoke only once. Only once. When it is going to execute, that is at the time of creating object or creating a class. We will see all these properties with the example. But whenever you use a constructor is, this should be the same as the class name. The name of the constructor should be the same as the class name. And it must use the public access modifier. And the constructor do not have the return type. It will not return any return type, or nothing will be there. And this will be automatically executed, and only once it is executed during the creation of the object or during the creation of classes. And what are the uses of the constructor? Initialization. Uses is initialization or passing the class variables. Use is initialization and passing the class variables. And there are three types of constructors are there. Three types of constructors are there. One is default constructor. Default constructor. And next one is non-parameterized. Non-parameterized constructor. And the third one is parameterized constructor. Okay, constructor is very important topic in Salesforce. There are three different type of constructors are there. Default constructor, non-parameterized constructor, parameterized constructor. Let me create a new class, CL_2206. Constructor example 1. Let's build the logic to implement to calculate the area. Calculate the area. Integer, length, and let's take another variable, integer a. Public void, and let's say that calculate area. Now inside this, my simple straightforward logic is I have an integer result, result equal to L multiplication of A. Now I'm going to print the value. System.debug result. Let's save this. Now this is simple, straightforward. I have declared the two primitive data types and one method. There is no parameters here. And inside this method, I have declared one primitive data type which is called as an integer result. And result equal to L into A. Only one business logic, and I'm printing the logic. Now let me execute this. This is straightforward class, which we are doing from the last couple of sessions. AR equal to new. I'm initializing the class AR dot. What is the method that I have? Calculate area. right? So when I execute this, when I execute this, what will happen?
You did not pass the value of LNA.
Right. So I did not pass the value of L and N. From where to pass it? Where am I getting that? I'm not passing anywhere here. So far till now, whatever the classes we have learned, we used to pass the variables in the method, saying that integer L, integer A here, right? But instead of passing in the method, during the class initialization, whenever the class gets executed, as soon as class is loaded, at the same time I wanted to pass the variable. Let's say the 12, 5. As soon as the class is loaded, I wanted to pass 12, 5. How can I pass it? So that means on the execution of the class itself, I wanted to pass my values. Or on load of UI, I wanted to pass the values. Or on load of this class, I wanted to pass the variables. So how do you pass it? We have to use the constructor. What is the constructor access modifier? It should be start with the public. And what is the constructor name? It should be same as class. The constructor name is same as class. And now inside this constructor, let's say that L equal to L cell length, A equal to, let's say width. Now I'll pass those variables here, integer, length, integer, width. Okay, so now on the load of the class, I can pass the values. (12, 5) AR dot calculate area. I need not to pass it anything here. So what will happen if I execute this? It is going to give me the result, which is a multiplication of L and A. But in case if I comment out this, in case if I do not have a constructor, what will happen if I pass the 12, 5? It says that constructor not defined. It says that your constructor is not defined. Why it is saying constructor is not defined? Because I am passing the values on the creation of the class. On the creation of the object, I am passing the values, or while initializing the object, or while initializing the class, I am passing the values. So that's the reason it says that your constructor is not defined. So first define the constructor. In case if I uncomment this, let's save this. And now if I try to execute it, it will execute because it found the constructor and it passed the values. And finally, I got the result, which is a multiplication of L and A. Let's go to the another one. Like we have created a couple of examples. Let's say there is a create ACC which we created. Right. So this is the visual force page. Right. We created a couple of sessions back. We created this. Let me open the controller. Okay. So this is the controller. What we are doing here, this is the controller, and I have a couple of variables which I declared NM, name, phone, fax, industry. Right, what I'm doing here, creating the account with the variables, whatever the user has given the NM, PH, FX, I'm setting it to the fax and industry, right? If I try to execute this. Okay, so if I try to execute this, if I give here del 1 to 3, 1 to 1, let's say banking, save. So what will happen? It is going to save the record. It is going to save the record in service console. See here, it created the del 1 to 3. That is perfectly fine, right? We are capturing the whatever user entered the input, we are capturing into the variable NM, and this NM I'm passing here and storing into the account. This is perfectly fine. Here you have 4 variables which you have declared it, right? But in account object, there are 100 records are there. Assume that there are 100 variables are there, or 100 fields are there, right? So for example, if you go to the account, just a second. Okay. So for example, if you go to the object manager and account and go to the fields and relationships, how many fields you have? Maybe more than 50 fields are there, right? More than 50 fields. If you have to declare, if you have to set 50 fields, that means if you wanted to capture the 50 fields from the user, right now you are capturing only the 4 or 5 fields. Like if you have a 50 fields here, and each one you have to create a one variable. That means if you create a 50 variables here, it will be half of the class will be the 50 field declaration. Half of the class will be the only the declaration part. So is it good practice to declare a 50 fields here or 50 variables here? Like keep on declaring public string, gender public strings, last name public string, phone number, work phone number, office phone number, all those. If I declare it, it will be like till the 50th number, it will be all of this variable declaration. It is not a good practice to do that, right? If tomorrow somebody introduce anything field, again you have to come and add it here, right? So instead of doing that, what we can do is, let's go and create a new class CL underscore 2206 underscore, let's say that This is a create account with constructor. Create an account with constructor. Now, instead of 50 variables, I can declare only one variable, which is a public account ACC. And here, get set. Now, let me declare a one method because I need to have a method also. Right, this is the method I need to have. So I'll declare the same thing. Public create method. I do not need all of this. I do not need all of this. Simply what I'll say, insert ACC. So instead of declaring the multiple variables here, what I did, I used the S object and ACC, get set. That's it. Now let's go ahead and create a new Visual Force page. VF underscore 2206 underscore. This is create an account with constructor. Click OK. Now I already have the Visual Force page. The logic is already there. So simply I'll copy this. Yes. Okay. Now here the controller, which one I wanted to use, the one which I have created right now, the class name, right? Perfect. Now, this is the account name. Now here create an account, right? Okay. So create an account. So with this create an account, which is the method, this is the method, the create account. This is perfectly fine. And what are the other changes that I need to do? I do not have these variables. I do not have these variables. Instead of this, what I have used ACC. So what I can do is ACC dot the field name, the API field name, ACC dot phone, ACC dot fax, ACC dot industry. So these are API fields. Now let me save this. Okay, it's perfectly fine, right? I'm using the latest one with constructor. Let's say here create a new account with constructor. Okay, let's save this. Now let me execute it. Observe this. In the class, I just declared the variable and I have a method. I do not have any constructor right now, right? So when I click on a preview, right, with constructor and with constructor, if I give something, Wipro, and phone number 6767-1212, banking, and as soon as I click on a save account record, I'm going to get an error. System.null pointer exception. System.null pointer exception. Attempt to dereference a null object. It says that error in the expression create an account. Basically, it is saying that there is no values to insert. It is coming in the line number 6. It is coming in the, just a second. Okay. So basically it is coming in the line number 6 on the create account method. Let me go to the class line number 6. While inserting the account, it says that null pointer exception. Though user is entering the value, still it is not able to capture. Why? Let me show you here. How do we create an account from the Apex or from the developer console? How do we create it? Account ACC, ACC dot name equal to, let's say that MNC. Okay, ACC dot phone number, three four three four three four, and then let's insert the account. Insert ACC. Right? So if I execute this code, that's what we are doing it here. Account ACC. I declared the account ACC. Okay. And whatever is user is entering in the UI, and here instead of capturing from UI, what I'm doing it, I'm entering here hard-coded values. The next step is insert ACC. Whatever we are doing in the Visualforce page, same thing I did it in the developer console. Account ACC, and what are the user enter those details I captured here, and then I'm inserting it. What will happen if I try to execute this code? I'll get an error. System null pointer exception. Attempted to dereference null object. This is same we were getting in the Visualforce page also. This is same we are getting in the Visualforce pages. System null pointer exception. Attempted to dereference null object. Why? What is the problem here? We have done couple of example creating an account, right? What is the difference right now? Do you see?
We did not initialize the account object.
Right, exactly. S object require the initialization, whereas primitive data type does not require the initialization. S object is required initialization. So you have to initialize account ACC equal to new account. You have to initialize it. You have to initialize it. Initialize it and then set the values and then insert. Now if I try to execute this, execute the highlighted one, it executed. Let me refresh this. Now MNC is getting created, right? 343433 MNC is created. So that means what I have to do, I have to use, either you can do two ways initialization. You can do directly account ACC equal to new account, or else you declare it account ACC, and in the next line you can do ACC equal to new account. Either you can do this or the other one, both are same. So what I'll do, I'll simply copy this, close, and then insert it here. Right, whatever I have explained, I did it here. It worked perfectly fine in developer console. But let's see in the Visualforce page how will it work or not. Okay. Now let's see the tech. 121212111 industry banking. Okay. Now what we are doing it, we are initializing all the variables, right? If I click on save, what will happen? It is going to throw an error saying that this time we are getting a different error. Observe this. Before it was getting the null pointer exception. Now I am getting the system.dml exception. Insert failed. Why it is failed? Required missing field account name. Account name is missing. Required field is missing. But if you see here, we are capturing the account name. We are capturing the account name. But why it is still saying missing the account name? The reason is okay. Now let's go back to the program, the class. Now we have first thing it executed the class, right? Let's assume that this is a VF page. In the VF page, we have a name, phone number, facts, industry, and submit button. Name, phone number, facts, industry. Okay. So what will happen now? The first, whenever the Visual Force page is executed, the first thing what it will do, it will call the controller. It will call the controller. In the controller, we have a account ACC. Public account ACC variable is there, which is a get and set. As soon as it executed the second line, it created the memory. It created the memory here. So let's say that this is memory location 0001. Memory location 0001. Right? It executed this. After executing this, what will happen? Now user has to enter the details. We have not yet come to this place. This create account, when it will execute, whenever user clicks on a save account record, then only this execution will happen, unless this method will not execute it, right? So till now we are at the second place. And as soon as it executes, it has some acc.name, so which is taking from the second. So user will be entering here tech and the phone number 1212.111 and some value here. So as soon as it enters the data, it goes and sits in the memory location 1. It sits in the memory location 1. Let's say here tech, okay, and 111.11. Now it's sitting in the memory location 001. Now these all values are entered in the Visual Force page. After entering all these values, now the user is clicking on the button, create a account button. As soon as user click on a create a account button, what is happening? We are initializing again. Whenever we initialize it, what will happen? It will create another memory space. Whenever we initialize a class, it will create a new memory location. New memory location 002. And this will be sitting into the database. What it is trying to do, as soon as user clicks on a submit button, the create account method gets executed. And that create method is going to create a new memory space. And this memory space is whenever it is trying to insert. Now the new memory space is created. Now next thing is that it is inserting. When it is trying to insert into the database, there is no values here. Basically, this does not have any values. Where are the values? Values are in the memory location 001. There is nothing, no values are there here. No values are here. So that's the reason. What is the error that we are getting? System.dml exception insert failed, saying that required field is missing account name. So what is the order of execution, the logic, the order of execution? What is happening right now is we declare the memory here. We declare account ACC and we gave the name, right? After giving the name, we are again initializing it and then inserting it, which is completely in reverse, right? What is the order of execution? First, we have to initialize. First, we have to initialize the S object. Second, go ahead and enter or fill the data. Then insert the report so that it will work. If you try to put this initialization after the filling the data, it won't work, because whenever you fill it, it goes into some other memory and there is another memory which is created after that, and you will not see any details in the new memory. So what is the sequence? Sequence has to be in this way. Now what is the sequence that we created? We created first account, we created and we gave the name, and here we fill the data and then we are initializing it, which is wrong, right? We have to initialize it in the starting place only, right? In that case, what we have to use, while executing the class, if we wanted to initialize it, while executing the class, if we wanted to initialize, we have to use the constructor. We have to use the constructor. We have to use the constructor. So if I use the constructor, what is happening now? On the class level, I'm declaring it, and during the execution of the class itself, I'm initializing it. Right now, my names are coming here. Whenever the user enter data, it will directly go into the sit into the new memory, which are the initialization memory is there, it will set it. And we are inserting same thing. Now this should work. Let me go ahead and refresh. Let's say here.
Hello.
Let's say .NET 1 2 3 1 2 1 1 1 and then banking. Let's save it. Perfect, it's saved. Let me go back to the account. Let's refresh. Okay. .NET, it created. Fine. So till this point is clear. Method name should be same as class name. When I say class name, what is the difference between the class and the constructor? Class and method. Constructor does not have the void or static, it will not have anything. Simple, straightforward, it starts with the access modifier and same as class name. And must be public. Constructor do not return any return type, and it automatically execute only one time during the execution of the object. Clear? Now there are three types are there, right? Parameterized constructor. When I say parameterized constructor means whenever we are passing the parameter, whenever we have a signature here, if there are any parameters which are passing in the constructor is called parameterized constructor. In case if there are no parameters, then we say that non-parameterized constructor. And by default, it is a default constructor also. Default constructor also does not have any parameters. So this is what initialization. During the initialization of the class, we use the parameter. During the initialization of the class, we use the parameter. We use the constructor. What are the interview questions that come up? Definitely they will ask, what is the constructor? What is the constructor? How many types are there? Can you write constructor class? How do you pass the values to the constructor? How do you pass the values to the constructor? Here they will ask the practical example. This is the practical example they will ask. That means you have to write a code. Clear? And also in the wrapper class, they will ask, what is the wrapper? Can you write wrapper method or class? How do you declare the variables? In wrapper class. How do you pass the, or how do you set or get the values to the wrapper class? On wrapper, definitely you will get one question, practical example or the theoretical question. Fine. Any other questions? If there are no questions, just a quick update. There is a developer days in coming month. Whoever is in Hyderabad, it is conducted on July 9th, which is on Saturday. Okay, if somebody from Jaipur, the developer days are conducted on July 23rd. And in the Bangalore, we have on July 30th. Okay, you can register this. These are in Hyderabad, seems like the registrations are closed, but in Jaipur and Bangalore, it is already available. What is this exactly is developer days is there are some technical sessions and yeah, technical sessions will be there. What are those technical sessions? They have not mentioned yet. So usually they will talk about something like a Lightning Web component or some Salesforce functionalities they will talk. And this is going to be useful for developers. So if you are available please join this session because it is good, worth to attend this developer days. Okay then, yeah. If there are no questions, thank you so much.